always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, welcome to it live from Detroit and kicking off another brand new day here on the Steve Gruber Show from the foxhole of freedom. Fighting for you every day, for this country, for you, for your family, for the future. Who do you want in your foxhole? A lot of work to do here today, so let's get right to it. Here are three big things you need to know. Number one, a scathing report is calling on the United States to label the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Says anything less puts American lives in jeopardy from radical terrorists that are already living right here. Number two, there's word coming out that President Trump is crafting a 28-point plan similar to what he created in Gaza in an effort to bring peace to Ukraine and end the war in Russia. And number three, a bit of breaking news to start today. President Donald Trump, if you missed it, did sign last night the deal to release all the Epstein materials, the files, the list, whatever there is. It's signed. Let the games begin. We begin here, though. Today, we're watching an entire generation of young men drift. Angry, aimless, medicated. There are more men on Ritalin in America than in any other country. They're addicted to screens and told from every corner that they're the very thing that could save them. Their God-given masculinity is the actual problem. I'm here to tell you that it's a lie, straight from the pit. And the numbers need to be looked at. Professor Scott Galloway, and he is no conservative, mind you. He's a New York liberal who teaches at NYU, but he lays it out cold. This generation of young men is the first in American history that's worse off than their parents at the same age. Our economy is failing them. Listen.
As we go down generations, we're seeing that for the last two generations, people are making less money on an inflation-adjusted basis. In addition, the cost of buying a home, the cost of pursuing education continues to skyrocket. So the purchasing power, the prosperity is inversely correlated to age. Simply put, as we get younger, we're taking away opportunity and prosperity from our youngest. The social contract that is now no longer in place, and for the first time in the U.S.'s history, a 30-year-old is no longer doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. This is a breakdown in the fundamental agreement we have with any society, and it creates rage and shame. As a result, people over the age of 55 feel pretty good about America, but less than 1 in 5 people under the age of 34 feel very good about America. This creates an incendiary. Righteous movements, cuts to our society end up becoming opportunistic infections because, generally speaking, young people have a warranted envy, they're pissed off, and they're angry that they don't enjoy the same spoils and prosperity that were provided to our generation.
Let all that sink in. Wages are flat. Housing nearly impossible. Student debt crushing. Marriage and family formation collapsing. Galloway says it himself. They're starting the race with concrete blocks tied to their ankles. And what do? We hand them a lecture on toxic masculinity instead of giving them a ladder. Toxic masculinity. There it is, the favorite boogeyman of the left. And like me, Charlie Kirk and others rejected that label over and over again. Here's the late Charlie Kirk.
What's your opinion on toxic masculinity?
You mean that toxic masculinity that stormed Normandy Beach and won World War II? Or the toxic masculinity that founded the country, or primarily men that go and fight our wars, fight our battles? I mean, it's a preposterous statement. Instead, we need to lift up men, no longer say that they need to be boys, but they need to turn into dangerous gentlemen and understand what exactly that means, which is to protect the innocent, know your power, use it prudently, and go on an adventure and stop being a boy in your parents' home.
Stop being a boy in your parents' home, period. Scott Galloway again. No right-winger says the same. So you got right and left, they agree on this. I agree with this. The phrase toxic masculinity is one of the most destructive terms ever introduced into our culture. Why? Because it takes every natural male impulse, competition, risk-taking, protection, provision, and yes, actually fighting for what you believe in, and pretends those things are the disease instead of the cure. Listen to this.
We've been celebrating femininity as we should, and we should do nothing to get in the way of the fact that women are doing really well. But let's also celebrate our young men and recognize that being risk aggressive, being a provider, being strong, wanting to be fit such you can protect and provide. Those are wonderful things. Let's stop pathologizing it. Let's embrace femininity, but let's also, for God's sakes, embrace masculinity. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's cruelty, there's criminal behavior, there's abuse of power. But if you do any of those things, you are not masculine. That is anti-masculine. And
He's exactly right. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. It's a boogeyman, like I said, designed to make men feel shame and would draw into the shadows. Young men today have been told that to be too loud is to be dangerous. To be ambitious is to be greedy. To want to fight for something is to be a potential school shooter. Come on. They've been shamed for standing too tall, speaking too directly, or, God forbid, failing at asking a girl out and then trying again if they get turned down. Galloway nails this too. A man's superpower, he says, is his ability to endure rejection. You get no 1,000 times on the field, in the job market, in dating, in sales, and you just keep swinging. Here's more.
When men are willing to take risks, develop a kindness practice, show resilience, dress better for God's sake, shower, work out, these things are really important, and they teach people, the young men, the most important thing in life, and that's the following: your ability to endure rejection. If you want to score above your weight class economically or romantically, then get ready to get out a big spoon and eat shit. Your ability to endure no, the only way you ever get to amazing yeses is with a lot of no's.
Yeah. They need strong men in their lives to teach them that. They do, the young men. But the left has built a culture that punishes swinging and rewards curling up on a ball in the fetal position in the living room. And who's paying the price more? Boys raised without dads. When we raise weak men, they become weak fathers, or even worse, they fail to become one at all. The American Freedom Alliance ran the data. Listen to this.
There's a bunch of kids coming home from the hospital, and then they come home to a home, and there's no man in the house. Big deal. What's the so what? Well, if you look at I don't know if you can read that well, if you look at the data, and Dr. Farrell went through some of this, I mean, this is a well-researched area. The data is presented very well. To me, it's unassailable. But if you look at any outcome, if you look at any measure of performance with kids with dads versus kids without dads, it's an extraordinary story that is told. So you look at the first thing, just poverty. People say they don't like poverty. Okay. Well, a kid without a dad is 4 times more likely to live in poverty than a kid with a dad. Is that surprising? Not to me. Not to me. You got a single mom busting her ass trying to raise a bunch of kids, no dad in the house. It's not surprising that so many of them live in poverty. Look at some of the others. Behavioral problems. The suicide stories were tragic today. Infant mortality. Likely to go to prison. Likely to commit crime. Join gangs. Being a girl. Getting pregnant. On and on and on and on. It's a very sad story. To me, it is compelling.
It is compelling. The left acts like the nuclear family is an ancient relic. We'll pick up there when we come back. We need real men in this country. Toxic masculinity is garbage. There is no such thing. There are real men, and we need more of them, and more dads, too. I'll be right back. All right, like I said, the left acts like the nuclear family is an ancient relic. They've ripped the blueprint out of society's hands and then act shocked when homes collapse. But here's the good news, and I mean shouted from the rooftops good news. They're waking up. Young men are starting to say no more. They hear Dave Portnoy, a guy who built Barstool Sports from nothing, call it like it is. The Democratic Party has become anti-normal, dude. Here it is.
What happened to the Democrats? Why did they lose so many young men?
People often think I have the answer. My nutshell is generally they were very anti-normal guys. Like if you, there's
what do you mean normal guys?
It's okay.
Are you saying there's only one way to be a guy?
If that girl's hot, hey, that girl's hot. I want to drink. I want to party. I like frat parties. I like that. That was all bad. Like, and to be honest, it's the white guy, and this sounds, but was the bad guy. Became the bad guy. And there's a lot of white dudes who are like, well, I'm not the bad guy. Like, what are you getting mad at me for? I wasn't here for colonialism or any of the stuff that you guys are complaining about 200 years ago. Like, what did I do?
Yeah, what did I do? Democrats told young men, especially Christian conservative men, that they are and were the problem with society. They tanked the economy, ripped away opportunities from the next generation, and then had the gall to tell 20-year-old dudes that the problem with society is that too many men want to be protectors and providers. And then you've got wackos on the left, like the disgraced reporter Taylor Lorenz, who justifies the idolization of who? Not a gentleman, but the man who killed the United Healthcare CEO in cold blood, Luigi Mangione. Unbelievable. Here it is.
So you're going to see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
What? A morally good man? Are you kidding me? That is insanity. Thankfully, with this administration, we have leaders in power who celebrate the attributes of actually good men. Young men get to watch Trump's Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, a father of 9, talk about men coming back to what it means to be a strong man, a protector, a provider. Here it is.
Well, we legitimately almost lost what it means to be a man.
But it's come
back
like
like this close,
and it came back in full force because of guys like you that go, I'm going to talk about what does it mean to be a man, and this group of great men that'll talk about what it means to be a man, and it is the chivalry, it's respecting women, it's these, by the way, these are very Catholic ideas. We started these ideas in Western civilization, and protecting your family, protecting your kids, and faith is such a big part of it.
Where do you think the resurgence came from?
I think it was the attack on masculinity, calling us toxic.
Yeah, but how long did that go on for?
Too long.
Was it?
It was a slow burn, I think. It was a slow burn that came to a crescendo of these attacks on these boys. And when they had an outlet that would actually celebrate them, would talk about how great they are and how great masculinity actually is, they gravitated towards it. And they rejected, you're toxic, and they would gravitate to the celebration.
You're not toxic. Chivalry, respecting women, protecting your family and your kids. It's what we need to be teaching and applauding, frankly. The next generation needs to see the conservative movement, the churches, the coaches, the dads who never left, standing up and saying, son, we've got your back. Be strong, be courageous. The world needs men, real men again. So to every young man listening right now, you are not the problem. You are the answer. The same fire God put in David when he ran toward Goliath, the same strength he gave to Joshua when he said, be strong and courageous. It's in you. If you're a boy, be a boy, loud and proud. You don't need to act like a proper little girl to be acceptable in society. Absolutely. The world took its best shot, feminized schools, broken homes, a culture that medicates boys instead of raising them. And if you're still standing, that's not weakness. That's proof you were built for such a time as this. Get in the weight room. Get in the Word. Find a mentor, an older man who's been through the firestorm. Learn a trade. Ask a girl out. If she says no, tip your hat, say thank you, and keep walking like a man. Protect the weak. Provide for your people. Lead. The left wants you docile. God made you dangerous for a good reason. And the tide is turning, fellas. They told you to sit down and shut up. You're standing up and roaring. And a generation of women, children, churches, and a nation that forgot how much it needs strong men is about to remember. Be that man. The one your grandfather would have shaken your hand for becoming. We're proud of you. And we're not going anywhere. Now let's get to work. Remember, I'm a man. We're going to change this a little bit. I'm a man. Hear me roar. Another segment of our population that needs as much support and encouragement as it can get is our veterans. Support for today's program comes from PureClean's Veterans Initiative, PureVet, investing in our nation's heroes by helping them own and operate thriving local businesses. Get in touch. Call 855-PureVet or visit purevet.com. PureClean is the base company here. I had a fire a year ago in a rental house. Devastating fire. PureClean came to the scene. They have been spectacular. When do you hear that about a restoration company? They've been just great to work with. I mean, these people are first class. The relentless pursuit of customer service. It's been great. And they do the same thing for veterans. If you're a veteran or know somebody who is, that wants to be an entrepreneur, that wants to get to the front of the line to own their own business, this is your chance. PureVet.com. PureVet.com or 855-PureVet. Find out more. It's well worth it. I'll take a break and be right back. Yeah, here's something that doesn't surprise me. A prominent global research center has released a comprehensive report on what it says a multi-generational campaign from the Muslim Brotherhood to transform Western society from within. The 200-page report released by the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy yesterday draws from internal Brotherhood documents such as the 1982 Project and the 1991 Explanatory Memorandum and makes the case that Western freedoms have been systematically leveraged to advance Islamist ideological goals as the group continues its 5-decade plan to embed itself in the United States. Should come as no surprise at all. No surprise at all. The Muslim Brotherhood is an Islamist organization founded in Egypt, gained access to government agencies, been involved in advising American civil rights policy, infiltrated educational institutions, and created a vast social media footprint. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. According to the report, the Muslim Brotherhood allegedly targeted U.S. government agencies for infiltration, including the State Department, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, and so on and so forth. They say the time now is to label the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. It's been far too long, they say. What do you say? And whatever you do say, you can send me an email to stevegruber.com, stevegruber.com. Send me a note. Maybe I'll use it right here on the program. By the way, you need some good coffee in your cup. That's what we use every single day right here. Good coffee in the cup. 1775 coffee. It is lovely. It's bold and full-bodied. And it's the coffee you want in your cup. It's a morning boost. It's fuel to keep you strong, sharp, and unstoppable. No fluff, just darn good coffee, and your body will thank you for it. Get yours now. 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Use that promo code Gruber. You're going to get the coffee that I drink that makes me go the way I go every single day. Yeah, we drink a lot of coffee around here. We drink a lot of 1775 coffee. Average isn't good enough. That's why we go with the best. 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll be glad you did. When we come back, Hans von Spakovsky will be here. We're going to talk about the Senate provision and corrupt fleecing of the Justice Arctic Frost. Don't go anywhere. All right, so here's a big story that you need to know about. In Texas yesterday, a 3-court panel in a 2-to-1 vote rejected Texas's new redistricting plan and the drawn districts for the upcoming elections. That part's significant. What's really significant is the dissenting opinion written by the one judge who said, this is wrong. What you're doing is unbelievable. Here to talk about that, Hans von Spakovsky, Manager, Election Law Reform Initiative and Senior Legal Fellow at the Edwin Meese Center for Judicial Studies at the Heritage Foundation. Hans, thank you for being here. This is a big case because if, for example, Texas isn't allowed to redraw districts and California is, where California absolutely used race as a foundational principle of writing their new districts and are in the process of doing that, it could upend Congress. It would be a terrible outcome. You read the dissenting opinion. You saw the case. What's your take?
Well, it was really interesting. You know, the majority opinion, which everybody made a lot out of, came out a couple of days ago. The dissenting opinion didn't come out till last night. It's a 100-page opinion by Jerry Smith. Jerry Smith is actually on the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. It is the most scathing denunciation of a majority opinion I've read in my entire legal career. In fact, he accuses the Judge Brown, who wrote the majority opinion, saying that the Texas redistricting was illegal. He accuses him of pernicious judicial misconduct. And at the end of the opinion, he lists what he calls are all the lies and misstatements that Brown put into his majority opinion. Smith basically says this was clearly political gerrymandering. Political gerrymandering is constitutional. It's not a violation of the law. It was not a racial gerrymander, as the majority says. And I got to tell you, while Texas may have lost before this three-judge panel, they've now appealed it to the United States Supreme Court. And Jerry Smith, who wrote the dissenting opinion, he is a well-respected jurist at the Supreme Court. So I think they're going to pay a lot of attention to what the dissenting judge says in this case, particularly because he doesn't just say the majority is wrong. He accuses them of misconduct.
So the Supreme Court most likely would take that case, I would guess, but I never predict what the court's going to do because it's never easily predictable. What's your feeling, though? You've watched this your entire career.
Actually, Steve, this is one of those situations where the Supreme Court has to take it. And that's because these kind of Voting Rights Act cases go before a three-judge court panel. As you know, that's unusual. And they have a direct appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court.
So they have to take it. All right, I didn't realize that. That's why we have an expert like you here. What happens in California? If California did gerrymander using race, that too will go straight to the Supreme Court, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, once the court judges there make the decision. And look, it's pretty clear when you look at the new proposed maps in California. They actually did use race as the guiding principle in drawing up the new boundaries and basically freezing Republicans out. So I think the lawsuit in California actually has a pretty good likelihood of success.
Wow, wouldn't that be something? I mean, just game this out for a second. If you get +5 in Texas, California gets set aside, they get 0. And then you add in 1 from North Carolina, 1 from Ohio, maybe Indiana comes in, but 1 from Missouri. Florida is considering redistricting. That'd be 5 out of Florida. And then the Supreme Court case that's still pending from Louisiana on race-based gerrymandering, right, that could flip 12 seats from what I read to the Republican side in places like Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, and of course, Louisiana. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that case before the Supreme Court is very important. It's called Louisiana versus Calais. And what the court asked the parties to brief the justices on was, can race ever be used in the redistricting process, or is that a violation of the 14th and 15th Amendment? And depending on how the court comes out, the kind of racial redistricting that it's Democrats that have been doing that for decades in order to favor them when it comes to elections, it may really knock that out. And they should.
And they should. Absolutely should. So let me ask you this. You've got all of New England, for example, not a single Republican member of Congress.
Right.
You know, you've got 165 million people in America today that have 0 Republican representation in Congress. 0. Conversely, you got about 65 million Americans that have no Democrats representing them. The Democrats have gerrymandered Illinois, Massachusetts, Connecticut, all across America. Would it affect those states as well?
No, because they, well, I mean, potentially if they can show that that was done on a racial basis when they drew the lines. But what people need to understand is that everybody's been complaining about Texas and the Republicans engaging political gerrymandering. Well, the Democrats have been doing that for decades, and they've basically maximized, as you said, the political gerrymandering in those states. Look, the other thing that nobody's talking about is, remember, the census admitted making huge mistakes last time, and they undercounted Texas and Florida. After the 2030 census, if they do an accurate census, because of the huge population increases in Florida and Texas, which are red states, they probably will get an additional 3 or 4 congressional seats.
Each or between the two?
Total. The total between them, they probably will get between 3 and 4 additional seats.
All right, so, but here it is, Hans. If you get, if the numbers are right, you get about 12 back because the Supreme Court rules properly. And the Supreme Court upholds Texas and these other states like North Carolina and Missouri and Ohio and maybe even Florida. You could see 25 seats potentially go to the Republicans. I mean, it'd be earth-shattering, politically speaking, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And let me tell you how those states could make it even better. If they implemented their own census, state census, and started counting and only using citizen population when they do redistricting instead of total population, so that you're cutting out all the aliens in those states, legal and illegal, that would shift even more seats from the Democrats to the Republicans if it's based on citizen population.
Sure. So you know, predicting what courts are going to do a little bit dicey, but in this case, you think it's pretty clear cut on all of these cases we've just discussed, which means the Democrats tried to play a game and got burned badly. The question would be, if the Supreme Court decision doesn't come out till June, will states like Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, will they be prepared with new districts right as soon as the decision comes out? Because in order to get to the midterm elections, they'd have to be ready right then.
I think they will be prepared, but look, the Supreme Court understands how important it is that they get decisions out quickly when they involve election issues. So I suspect they're not going to wait until June to get this decision out. I think we will get it sometime after the new year, maybe as early as April.
All right. Well, that'll be incredibly important. Hans, really appreciate it. This is one of the most important things nobody's talking about. The Texas case, very interesting now because of what you said in the dissenting comments from Judge Jerry Smith. Hans, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
All right. There you have it. You are up to date on the redistricting and how important it is. I'll be back with an update on the economy. For those of you that are investors, the Dow futures looking like it's going to be up today. It's been a tough few days, as you know. The Dow has come down a couple thousand points over the last few days. But there could be hope in the future. NVIDIA came out with its numbers better than expected. That's always a good thing. Joining me now, Terry Sawchuk, the founder of Sawchuk Wealth. Terry, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. I've got some NVIDIA in the portfolio somewhere, buried in a mutual fund. So I guess we had a pretty good evening last night. NVIDIA doing better than expected, aren't they?
I wouldn't say it's better than expected, but I would say it's as expected. I mean, they're printing money just because they have a moat around their business. The hardware that they create, nobody really competes with them. And they've got a backlog of business. And so on a relatively short to intermediate term basis, I think they're in really good shape. There are some questions, though, Steve, around the circular nature of who they're doing business with. They're selling to Microsoft. They're selling to OpenAI. OpenAI is selling to, to NVIDIA. And so there's some concerns, maybe. I don't know if they're, well-founded yet, but there are some concerns that maybe the revenue could be overstated.
Clearly, I'm working in the wrong place. I should be working at NVIDIA today. Clearly, I think the profit sharing will be good this year. We talk about the AI bubble here from time to time. This would, to a layman like me, say, well, the bubble's not real like it was during the dot-com days, but you say don't be so sure.
Yeah, I think with two things can be true. I think you can not be in a bubble in some ways and then be in a bubble in other ways. And I think for companies like NVIDIA, Palantir, and others, where they're really the leaders and they do have a pretty good moat around their business, they might be a little bit more insulated. But some of the other names have gotten downright silly, just in terms of valuations relative to their revenues. And you think that the argument is, well, this is the early phase, they're going to grow into the revenues. Well, that certainly could be true. I think they're priced for perfection, and that's the issue. The other thing I would say is that there's some things going on underneath the surface, sort of in the plumbing of the financial system right now, that need to be investigated to see if there's more there or maybe it'll just go away.
When I talk about plumbing, I talk about the Fed, the ongoing battle between Jerome Powell and the White House. The White House wants interest rates to be lowered. The Fed was slow to react. I don't know if we're going to get another rate cut this year. What do you make of what's going on at the Fed? Is it out of sync? Is it in step? What's up?
They're definitely behind the curve. And I think the Fed is using, well, two things. One, I think they're using antiquated models that don't line up necessarily with what's going on today. And, I think Powell's a political a-hole. And I'm just not a fan of his. I think he's literally trying to undermine Trump.
Don't hold back,
he's doing
Terry.
it as delicately
Tell
as he
us,
can.
Tell us what you really think. Don't hold back. Get right to the point. Thank God it's a family show, or Brock will be over there pushing the red button. At any rate, so we'll see what happens with him. Let me ask you about this, because as I've watched the markets take a tumble, nothing's tumbled worse than Bitcoin and other cryptos. What's going on there?
I think the issue is they're far out on the risk curve, and there's liquidity issues in the market currently. Now, whether they're solved relatively quickly remains to be seen. But if you look at, the problem with the shutdown is it basically drained the Treasury General account, and that's been a source of liquidity. And so that needs to get built back up. And, with the Fed playing politics right now, they're not really helping that situation. The other thing you have to keep an eye on is that Japanese bond yields have gone up a ton recently. And if you look at the yen, it's weakening against the dollar. And, there's some concerns that maybe there may be some intervention by
What
the
does that mean to me? What does that mean? Okay, the Japanese markets are doing this, and their bonds are doing that, and the yen's done this. What does that mean to me?
It's really simple, Steve. The trade on Wall Street for the last few years is borrow money in Japanese yen at almost no interest, to pay, and then take that and arbitrage it in other assets. So borrow money in yen, buy U.S. government bonds that pay more, buy stocks like NVIDIA or crypto like Bitcoin, right? All that stuff's been going on. Well, now that the interest has gone up astronomically on a relative basis, it blows up those carry trades. And now these have to be unwound. And so in the unwinding of this, what has to happen is assets need to be sold, right? So you need to sell the things that you bought with borrowed money to pay the things to pay the money back that you borrowed. And that's kind of what's been going on in terms of particularly with the riskier assets.
Right. All right, let's talk about protecting yourself right now. It's volatile out there. You know, there's risk out there. You need to protect yourself. What do people need to think about?
I think right now, I think it's a good time to think about your big picture allocation, and whether the amount that you have allocated to equities makes sense. I would argue this would be a good time to pare back a little bit. I would also look for other ways to hedge your portfolio. That's what we do. We use algorithms and other strategies, derivatives, to protect the portfolio so that if or when it goes down, we don't go down to the same degree.
Right, the ship doesn't sink. All right, let's talk about your book a little bit. It's got a provocative title, X-Rated. Tell me about the book.
And we're going through what's, I think some people would refer to it as a fourth turning, and it's just this cyclical phase that has shown up throughout history, and it's a crisis phase. And you know, obviously with the political turmoil and all the other things that are going on, it seems to line up. And so, you know, our point is, number one, the 60-40 portfolio is dead. The typical way to manage through these volatile times isn't going to work, we think, this time around. The Gen Xers are the sandwich generation, right? They've got parents and kids they have to take care of. You've got to find new ways to manage risk, keep your costs low. I mean, it's basic blocking and tackling, but it's with a twist really specifically for Gen X.
And there you go. You can find out more at sawchuckwealth.com, sawchuckwealth.com. And you can also click that QR code right there on your screen. The book is X-Rated. Not exactly, but you know, that's the name of the book. Terry Sawchuk, always good information. Greatly appreciate you being here, sir.
Good to see you, buddy. Have an awesome week.
Nice to see you. All right, leave that up for a second with the X-Rated. I guess we can't. There it is. QR code X-Rated from Terry Sawchuk, his brand new book. Protect yourselves out there and keep your money safe. I'll be right back. All right, word out of the White House is there's a 28-point plan being crafted by the president and his team, a 28-point plan for peace between Russia and Ukraine. Not dissimilar to the 20-point plan put forth for Gaza. Now, this plan is not going to be loved by a lot of folks because it's going to rewrite the international boundaries between Ukraine and Russia. And it takes me back to the beginning of this war, when Joe Biden had an opportunity to end this war 3 months in, and they rejected the plan. Look, Russia's never giving back part of the Donbass and part of the eastern portions of Ukraine. I've said that from the beginning. I have no reason not to believe that today. If the war is to end, we have to strengthen the defense pacts between Ukraine and its European neighbors to protect itself from Russia. We have to bring the fighting to an end first and foremost. But there do have to be accommodations. They're going to have to be. Nobody's going to like the way it turns out, but you don't have much choice, in my estimation. If the war is to stop, it's going to take some deals to be made, some compromise to be dealt with, compromise that maybe neither side likes. But that's how this sort of process works. So I'm looking forward to a 28-point plan. That's what we're told. Could end up being a couple more, a couple less. We'll see. But right now we're told it's a 28 plan for peace between Russia and Ukraine being put together and brokered potentially by President Trump, who has been speaking with Vladimir Putin again recently. Zelensky, of course, has been in this mix from the beginning. But I think that's another step forward. If Donald Trump can deliver peace in Ukraine, then he can pivot and focus all of his energy on lowering the cost of health care and energy and food and deliver a better economy, because affordability still is number one, and it will be number one come midterms. Now, all of the things we talked about with Hans and redistricting, that could have a major impact on what happens going forward as well, because if the Republicans get an advantage in 20 seats, well, that's the whole shooting match. When we come up, STEM jobs, we're going to talk about that. Short of hoarding, China can't keep rare earths out of the U.S. We're getting them, and we're finding our own. Those stories and more coming up on The Steve Gruber Show. There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Yes, it is. And good morning. Thank you for being here. Greatly appreciate you fighting for me and with us in the foxhole of freedom. It's an important place to be every single day, fighting for this country. I've got some programming notes coming up for you. We'll get to that. But first, the big three things you need to know this hour. Number one, in another brilliant move, VA Secretary Doug Collins just claimed $77 million that was supposed to be used for solar EV charging stations. Instead, he's going to use it for veterans' health care. Like I said, brilliant. Number two, in Pennsylvania, an activist left-wing group going to send a primary challenge against Democrat Senator John Fetterman. I guess if you don't do as you're told, they'll come after you with the pitchforks, clearly. And number three, how about the members of Congress enriching themselves to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars, while ordinary folks like you are struggling to pay the light bill often days? Well, this issue has now brought together some very unusual members to unite, to say the very least. It's time to stop allowing members of Congress to have all this insider information, insider trading. Some making thousands of trades a year, thousands. Do you have time for that? Because I sure don't. Congressman Tim Burchett, one of my favorites from Tennessee, says it's time to cut off the head of the snake. And by that, he means Congress and its inside trading scheme to enrich themselves and forget about you. Here he is yesterday.
And this is, everybody talks about this place being a dadgum swamp. It's not a swamp. A swamp is something cool God created. It filters water. Animal life lives and flourishes around it. This is a sewer. This is created by man, and it needs to stop. We've, for years, Congress has been using hardworking American taxpayers' money to get rich. Dadgum, it's got to stop. America knows what the heck's going on. Everybody wants to knock Pelosi. Heck, she's not even in the top 10. Get on that Unusual Whales site. This is pathetic, folks. We all know what's going on. Congress knows what the hell's going on, and it needs to stop. This body has been enriching itself on the taxpayers' dime for too dadgum long, and it's got to stop. This place is crooked and is as crooked as a dog's leg. That's an old East Tennessee saying, but it's the truth.
Crooked as a dog's leg. Nancy Pelosi isn't even in the top 10. Really? Really, who is? That's interesting, isn't it? And from there, Burchett got even more fired up. Listen to this.
This is a scam that's being played on the American public, and it needs to stop. Let's quit with this nonsense. Let's give America a reason to trust Congress for once in our miserable lives. This is our chance to stand up and say, we hear what you're saying, America. We're going to fix this dadgum problem, but we probably won't do it. And I'll remain ticked off the rest of the day because of this. And it needs to stop. I want to thank all these folks, really. I joke around about it. You want to talk about something that, we all working together? Dadgummit, this is the issue. This is the issue where Democrats and Republicans. Dadgummit, if I can stand up here with these two. Yeah, these two. I mean, people back in East Tennessee are going, what in the heck's Burchett doing sitting next to Paul, for goodness sakes? Well, I'm not going to beat her in her district, and she sure as heck ain't going to come down to East Tennessee and beat me. But this is an issue that America's united on.
I agree with him. When you see people go into Congress that are worth $500,000, $800,000, and a few years later they're worth $20 million or more, obviously something's happening. We're getting scammed, just like he said. This is a scam on the American taxpayer, enriching themselves and not giving a damn about you. Good for Paul. Good for Burchett. Those are two polar opposite members of Congress. Paul, a member of the squad. Burchett, a member of his own private army, I think. East Tennessee. Always wears that old worn-out barn coat. Love that coat, by the way. These are two very different people that agree on one thing. Stop gaming the system for your own enrichment while the American people try to figure out how to pay the light bill. It's about the most sensible thing I've ever heard. It's called bipartisanship. Which is why, my friends, I've never been a member of any political party and never will be. I don't issue endorsements. I just sit here and give you color commentary and play-by-play. This is a good idea. Meanwhile, one of the Democrats in big trouble now, I wasn't really familiar with her, but her name is Sheila Phyllis McCormick. Today, she's facing over 50 years in prison on federal charges, and she's a member of Congress. Why? Well, a Miami grand jury indicted Sheila Phyllis McCormick on charges that she stole millions of dollars from FEMA. Here it is, another scam where she's working with her brother, sending money through some nonprofit, right? And pretending that it was candidate contributions. Using disaster relief funds for self-enrichment is a particularly selfish and cynical crime, so said Attorney General Pam Bondi. No one is above the law, least of all powerful people who rob taxpayers for personal gain. We will follow the facts in this case and deliver justice. They worked through their family health care company, a FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract in 2021. The company received an overpayment of $5 million in July 2021. FBI Director Kash Patel immediately posted on X that Phyllis McCormick and her family allegedly stole money from FEMA and then laundered it through friends toward her own personal benefits, including her campaign accounts. Follow the money. Another member of Congress enriching themselves, just like Burchett was talking about there. This has to stop, and somebody needs to go to prison for this. If this is a member of Congress, I wouldn't care if this was a Republican. If you stole money from FEMA or any other government agency to enrich yourself and pad your campaign fund, you need to be in prison as an example to the rest of the world. Period. I don't care who you are. Greg Steube of Florida, another member of Congress, says, this is one of the most egregious abuses of public trust I have ever seen. Ever seen. They're demanding that she resign now as the Republican Party of Florida. Of course, her office not responding to requests for interviews. Batten down the hatches, hide, scream Epstein, scream Russia, do something. Yeah. By the way, there's an AI-generated deepfake circulating of Donald Trump pretending that he's on a phone call arguing about the release of the Epstein files. As an update, Donald Trump signed the legislation last night to release all the Epstein information that they can. Anything that's unclassified is going out to the masses. We'll soon see. Whose names are on there? Larry Summers, I'll have him in a moment. Larry Summers resigning and stepping back from public life in complete and total shame and embarrassment, as he should. Larry Summers, one of the chief architects of the anti-Trump movement, now caught up in a web with Jeffrey Epstein, asking Epstein over 7 years of emails for dating advice. Just let that simmer for a moment. For dating advice. All right, we'll take a break and be right back. All right, let's just jump right back into it, shall we? Because it's an important conversation we're about to have about people that graduate with STEM jobs and need a good start, and yet seems like they're not getting treated quite right. Mike O'Neill is the Vice President of Legal Affairs at the Landmark Legal Foundation. Mike, thank you for being here.
It's good to be with you, Steve. How are you today?
I'm doing well. This is called the Optional Practical Training Program, run by DHS. And you says it prevents recent American college graduates from obtaining gainful employment. Why would that be?
Well, what happens is this: international students, foreign students, come to America on F1 visas. They come and study in our colleges and our universities. This is a regulatory program operated by the Department of Homeland Security that allows those students who are admitted under F1 visas to remain in the country for up to 3 years to enroll in this program and obtain jobs in primarily STEM fields. The 36-month extension applies for STEM fields. So you have about 600,000 people, recent college graduates, international students, not Americans, enrolled in this program that are occupying these tech jobs. So essentially what happens is tech companies, of course, want to employ these individuals, number one, because they can pay them considerably less. Number two, they have a little stronger bargaining position. There's a little disparity in power there between the corporation and the individual who's here admitted on an F1 visa enrolled in this program. And number three, it's economically viable for these companies to do this because they don't have to pay they don't have to pay things like FICA taxes on these employees. So when it comes to all things being equal, when it comes to hiring a recent college graduate, American college graduate, in say, for example, in a computer engineering degree versus a foreign college graduate, a non-American, they're going to always, these corporations are tech corporations primarily, are always going to hire the foreign worker over the American worker. And this is really being displayed if you see the employment statistics of recent college graduates. Of the top 10 majors of people with the highest unemployment rates of recent college graduates, you see number 2 is physics. I mean, you'd think it would be physics. You say, okay, I graduate with a physics degree, I'm going to have an opportunity to get a job. Well, the number 2 unemployment with recent college graduates are physics degrees. In that top 10, you also have computer engineering and computer science. So we know young American workers are having trouble getting these jobs, and they are being occupied. AI obviously is taking some of them as well, as we're transitioning to an AI kind of centric economy. But we also see a number of these jobs, particularly around 600,000 of them, being occupied through this OPT program.
So 400,000, you call them non-immigrants.
Yeah.
Held jobs. Why do you call them non-immigrants?
Well, that's a legal term. They're not here permanently. They're here. They've expressed, when you're admitted under the F1 visa program, you have to express a desire not to remain in the country at the expiration of your visa. You're here temporarily.
How many stay over?
Pardon me?
How many stay over?
Oh, right. Again, that's the process. It's right now. I think the numbers vary, but I think the most current number is about 600,000 people are enrolled in this program. And as these people are enrolled in the program for up to 3 years, they also can apply for more permanent H-1B visas. So, of course, this is a pipeline into that H-1B visa program that everybody's talking about as well.
Right, which is very. It's a hot button issue to say the least. Yeah. Donald Trump was opposed to it, but now it sounds like he's okay with it. Does this displaces qualified Americans, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. And you see this. I think the younger people, recent college graduates, are facing a lot of headwinds, right? They're facing AI. Let's talk about AI and how that's going to implicate the job prospects for recent tech graduates, STEM graduates. So they're facing that. They're also facing, we're talking about this all the time, housing costs, medical costs, all this stuff. They're also facing job prospects. As I said, a lot of you see these statistics that are almost coming out daily. The job prospects in these technical fields for young workers are pretty dire. And again, we've been telling these folks, hey, go get a STEM degree, go get a computer engineering degree. We've been telling them for 20 years now, I think for years, to study the hard sciences, study the STEM degrees, and the opportunities just aren't there. And then you have this regulatory program that the Department of Homeland Security operates that really cuts into that. There's also, this is all the policy issues behind this. Also, I submit to you, Steve, that this program isn't authorized by Congress. So this is kind of a unique regulatory program operated by the Department of Homeland Security. Remember when we talk about F1 visas, H-1B visas, those are all programs that are statutorily authorized. In other words, Congress sets the numbers of individuals who can come in here on H-1B visas, on F1 visas. This is something that Congress has never specifically approved. So that really goes to the legality and the propriety of this entire program.
Yeah. Brings a lot of things into question, that's for sure, of the entire program. No doubt about that. How do we fix it? Because, as I said, it's a hot-button issue. Donald Trump seemed to go one way, then he went another way. I'm not sure where the administration is today.
Right.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know where they are. I mean, you'll see on any given day, you'll see Donald Trump come out and be touting H-1B visas and the necessity for that. I mean, I certainly would take some issue with that. I think there's plenty of American workers who can fill a lot of these jobs. That being said, when you're talking about the OPT program, the news is that it's a regulatory program. So DHS actually has the control over it. They've promulgated and issued and run this program. They similarly have the program to disband and dismantle it and discontinue the program. You don't need an act of Congress of this. This is simply a regulatory issue. So that in some ways, it's a bad thing that you have an administrative agency overreaching by creating this enormous program for 600,000 people. But on the other side of that coin, you have the news that DHS also has the power to revoke and rescind that program and halt any more enrollment in it.
Yeah. There you have it. Mike O'Neill pointing out something that is concerning to me because, look, if you got $100,000 in college debt because that's what you're told to do, do everything right, and all of a sudden you don't have a job because somebody from wherever does, Timbuktu, that's not right. We need to protect American workers first, Mike. I'll give you the last word real quick.
No, I agree, and I think that we're going to talk about this going forward in the coming months as the job prospects for recent graduates look increasingly grim. AI, student loans, all of these issues are facing these young folks. I think it's something time for the Department of Homeland Security to take a hard look at this and decide where their priorities lie.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
You too, my friend. There you have it. All right, we'll take a break and be back. America first, right? America first. I'll be right back. All right, so we talked about NVIDIA earlier. Their CEO is predicting a crazy good quarter four. Yeah, he says crazy good Q4 after a strong earnings calmed the AI bubble fears. Third quarter sales rose 62%. Big acceleration over the last 7 quarters. So NVIDIA looking pretty good today, making Anthony happy. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said Wednesday the chip maker is heading into a crazy good fourth quarter, underscoring its dominance in the heart of the global artificial intelligence boom. Terry Sawchuk, a little more reserved on this, but I think AI is going to be the path to the future. I don't see it slowing down. I think it's where we are. I think it's where we live. We need more power, and these high-tech companies are going to power their way to the future, and we're all going to benefit. And I'm going to get an Optimus robot to do the cleaning around here. If I could teach an Optimus robot to gut a deer, wouldn't that be the thing, huh? Huh, Anthony? Wouldn't that be? Go clean, my deer. Go on.
That'd be good.
That'd be good. All right, I want to tell you about My Pure Health Solutions, a completely natural system that helps you find out why your metabolism shut down and shows you how to turn it back on using real science and technology, not shots, not medications or stimulants. You'll eat real food, no exercise required, and finally see how the weight loss industry has had it backwards all these years, because lasting change starts by fixing what's happening on the inside and then learning exactly how to keep it off for good. Right now, it's their Black Friday sale. It's there on the screen for anybody who's paying attention. The QR code, click on that, and away you go. It's the biggest sale of the year. Mention you're part of the Steve Gruber Show. You'll get an extra special listener-only discount. That's right. Special savings for you because you're watching right now. Click on that QR code. You don't have to start the program now either. Book your consult, lock in your discount, and decide when you want to start. After Thanksgiving, maybe in the new year. In 40 days, men lose 40 pounds, women lose 25 pounds on average. Go to gruberhealth.com or call 269-964-4044 and finally get your metabolism working for you again. And again, the fast track is right there on that QR code on your screen. Right there. See, right down there. Right there. All right, I'll be right back. Apparently, America's finding a lot more rare earth elements. Big news out of Alaska as we continue to find more and more of the items that are going to be needed to power the future. AI, EV, whatever it might be, your computers, your smartphone. We need a lot more of it, and we're getting more of it right here at home domestically now that we have an administration in the White House that says, you know what, we can't be beholden to China. John Tamny, the author of Deficit Delusion, Why Everything Left, Right, and Supply Side Tells You about the national debt is wrong. He's also editor of Real Clear Markets, president of the Parkview Institute, and senior institute at the Market Institute. He's got a very big business card to read all that, all right? John, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Steve.
All right, so China can't keep rare earth elements out of the U.S. short of hoarding them, but I wouldn't put it past them. What are your thoughts?
Well, if they hoard them, then what a loss to them, because the world changes all the time. 100 years ago, rubber was the ultimate rare earth. It was the one that it was what everyone coveted. Is Akron, Ohio booming now because of rubber? No. And so the Chinese have a choice. They can impoverish themselves by sitting on what the market wants, or they can sell it. And if they sell it, it will flow to the U.S. as though it had been produced in the U.S. in the first place. It doesn't matter the origin of goods. If you're selling it to the whole world.
Exactly right. But what about all these discoveries here in America? It seems to me I see headlines almost daily now of a new discovery of a rare earth deposit or pocket here in the U.S. This big story, of course, the 200-mile road they're punching through Alaska to work with a company from Australia and a company from Canada to help provide rare earths right here. Now, the problem we have is refining, right? We have refining shortages or limit on the amount that we can refine. That's a big challenge, isn't it?
I don't know, and it's not my place to say, you need clothes, I need clothes. I suppose we could make them, but at what cost to our productivity? Everything's a trade-off. And so if the Chinese are willing to make what isn't a high margin item, which I think a lot of these rare earths are, why wouldn't we just import it? Again, I don't want to choose what people do, but it's just like when OPEC imposed an embargo, the Arab members of OPEC imposed an embargo in 1973. It's not as though they kept their oil out of the United States. We still consumed it as though it had bubbled up in West Texas. We just bought it from those they sold to. During World War I, there was an embargo placed on Germany, so suddenly U.S. trade with the Scandinavian countries soared. Well, what was that? It just was a sign we were still trading with Germany, albeit through Scandinavian countries. If the rare earths have meaning, and if they're going to drive U.S. economic growth, they're going to be here because our production demands it. Do you think the Chinese are really going to be so suicidal as to give up the biggest market in the world? Not a chance.
So you think they're going to sell it to us anyway? And just mark it up and sell it anyway.
Because in economics, an embargo is symbolic. It doesn't keep the product from getting to where it's wanted. It's always going to get there. And don't think for a second the Chinese don't know that. They're not going to give up a huge market, because if they do, that just means they're handing over the margins and profits to those they sell to. So It's always going to reach the United States. China, it'd be economically suicidal for China to do anything but that.
But the
Chinese,
Chinese,
we're not going to give up the Chinese market.
In fairness, the Chinese are in an asymmetrical war with the United States. We know that. We may not realize it, most of us, because Americans see war as binary. We're either at war or we're not. But the Chinese have been waging war on us economically and more for probably since Korea, if you want to know the truth. I wouldn't put it past them to cut us off.
They were at war with us ever since Korea because they were so poor. They were communists. They couldn't produce anything for us. If they were at war with us, they would literally hoard everything, and we would be a much poorer country. But they're not.
Well, they steal. Well, John, in fairness, they steal economic they steal proprietary information. They've got 600,000 college kids here, all that have to swear allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party. They take intellectual property. Of course, they're at war with us.
Well, please tell me. Conservatives want it both ways. They claim that colleges don't teach anything of value in the first place, but whenever the Chinese have the temerity to avail themselves of U.S. education, suddenly education in the U.S. is amazing and is giving them the tools to thrive.
John, they're not here getting transgender ideology degrees. They're here getting science and math degrees.
Okay, and so what does that mean?
That means they're in our, for example, here at the University of Michigan, we had 3 college kids this year arrested for bringing in pathogens in an agricultural studies program at the University of Michigan. Previous to that, we had 5 college kids from China up at Camp Grayling, the biggest military camp in America, studying and taking pictures of the Taiwanese and American military exercises, pretending to be journalists, but they were students at the University of Michigan. Come on now.
No. Come on, Steve. So if we're at war with China,
No,
why
we're
would
not.
this?
They're
No,
at
no, no,
war
no,
with
no, no, no,
us.
no, no. But Steve, you claim the Chinese are at war with us.
I believe
and
that.
and that they're a major threat.
They are.
So, okay. So for one, if that were true, why would they strengthen us with exports to the United States? Because they undeniably strengthen us. Isn't it interesting if they hate us so much? There's 5,500 McDonald's in China on the way to 10,000 in 2028.
That's all fine and well, but the fact of the matter is China believes everything under the sun. That's their saying, not mine. Belongs to China. They don't just believe Taiwan is a rogue province. They believe America is a rogue province, and so is Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. They believe everything belongs to them, including the Arctic and the rare earth elements.
Sell to us because they strengthen us every single day. They make Americans much better off every single day.
Is America better off than it was 20 years ago?
Undeniably so, and
Really?
I think you know that. But wait, no, Steve, come on. You invited me on the show.
I did.
Since they're at war with us, as you say, don't you want their kids here? Because how can you go to war if the children of your best and brightest are sprinkled around the United States? If they ever actually did get into a shooting war with us,
it's an intellectual war.
Wouldn't we have a pretty good card to play? Oh yeah, we've got your best and brightest sitting here in the United States.
And
What
do
are
you
gonna
think what America's going to just Shanghai them here and say you can't leave? They're here to get information. Do you deny the Chinese steal intellectual property? Do you believe the Chinese steal intellectual property every day in this country?
Yeah, and who doesn't steal intellectual property? Can I steal your intellectual property? I could, but I still couldn't do your job. Steve Jobs was the greatest theft of intellectual property in American history.
I think Thomas Edison was, but that's a story for another day.
As was Thomas Edison. Americans used to go over to British factories, and they had such great memories. They would literally memorize everything they saw in the factories and bring those ideas back to the United States.
So you don't think China's a threat at all?
No, of course not. If they were a bigger threat when they were a poor communist country. Now they're a growing country.
So their blue water navy building the biggest, most powerful military in the world is of no concern to you?
No, why would it be of a concern to me? If they go to war with us, it's economic suicide for them.
I think that's obtuse. I'm sorry. They're building islands in the Pacific to create new air bases. They've got a blue water navy. They're creating high-tech military equipment every single day. Of course they're a threat to us and everybody else for that matter.
I heard the same thing about the Soviet Union, but the Soviet people loved us and they never
China's far more powerful than the Soviet Union ever was.
Okay, well, so what are they going to do?
Russia has 150 million people. Vietnam's almost that big now. Anyhow, John, I gotta go. Great conversation. Yes, I invited you. You can come back anytime. I like good conversations.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got to hit a break here. We'll be right back. Getting back into it now, we're going to talk about collectibles, coins in your pocket, or anything else you might have. Joining me is Tom Colson, the owner of Liberty Coin Service. You can find out more at libertycoinservice.com. And remember, you can send your collectible coins, whatever you think they might be worth, right here to coins@stevegruber.com. They might get featured right here on the program. And other things, baseball cards, other collectibles. Tom knows a lot about all these things. He's been a career in those circles. Tom, welcome back.
Thanks, Steve.
Good to see you. All right, so let's talk about gold. Gold really has stabilized over the past few weeks, sitting just above 4,000. A few variations, but no big runs or no big drops either, right?
It's been a little bit choppy. We're getting a lot of variation within the days, but yeah, you're right. The closes are fairly consistent throughout.
It's down about $300, just shy of that over the last month, but compared to where it's been over the last year, it's up 55%. Silver's up 63% year over year. It's been real good for gold and silver, and for people that had it, they did real well for themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, if you were holding silver going into the beginning of the year, you're probably pretty happy now that you held on to it.
Yeah, the problem with silver, as we discussed, it's hard to store. You know, a 5-gallon bucket of silver is kind of expensive hard to hide and hard to move. Gold is easier, but we'll see where that goes. Do you expect any big changes right now, or is it kind of where it is for a bit? Your guess?
I feel like it's kind of just going to camp out here for the rest of the year. I think we'll be in a fairly tight range. Nobody ever knows for sure, but that's kind of what I think. And then I think we could see some action again at the beginning of the year. That's often what happens.
Yeah. Meanwhile, cryptocurrencies are getting clubbed like a baby seal. I see Bitcoin is at 91,000 today, way down from 125 of its high here a few months ago. So I guess gold and silver were a better bet than Bitcoin was over the last 6 months, that's for sure.
Definitely over the last year or so.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about some coins. Like I said, coins@stevegruber.com. If you've got something in your pocket, something you collected from an estate or a flea market or inherited, we'll take a look at them here. I'll look. Tom will tell us about them. The first one here comes from Debbie in Massachusetts. It's going to look like it's Mexican to me from 1956. What am I looking at?
Yeah, that's a Mexican 50 centavo coin. It's bronze. Not a lot of cash value, no longer currently spendable or anything, but typically those are a few cents or so in terms of value.
Not spendable, why? It's not current.
Well, I guess technically it could still be spendable, but that's denominated in old peso, so you would need 2,000 of those to make about a nickel.
Oh, that doesn't add up very well, but again, I guess it's the history of it. Interesting. The next one is a euro cent. I don't know what this is. I have no idea what I'm looking at. I've never seen this before.
That's a 20-cent coin of the euro denomination. It's from Italy. Each country that is in the EU that issues coins has their own denomination, and that's the Italian design. But still currently spendable over in Europe, anywhere. Doesn't have to be Italy. And, worth about 20 cents or so.
20 cents American, so pretty similar. It's got an odd shape to it with all those indentations. I've not seen one of those before. What's the size of that coin?
It's about the size of a nickel. I think the indentations are there primarily to help visually impaired people distinguish between the denominations.
That's interesting. All right, and that came from Richard in Georgia. Richard, thank you for that. Megan in South Carolina. When I was a kid, I looked for these pennies all the time. My grandfather got me interested in coin collecting when I was a kid, and when wheat pennies were still... You can still find a lot of them in circulation back in the 70s and 80s, and every now and then you'll still see one, but it's pretty rare. This is the 1943 war penny, of course, made out of steel, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep, those are made out of zinc-coated steel. They were only made in 1943 because of the shortage of copper that was needed for the war effort, but they still produced over 1 billion of them that year, so they're not particularly scarce. Typically, I'd pay about a nickel a piece for those when they come in over the counter, and I sell them for dime, quarter a piece, roughly.
And speaking of pennies, the penny is no more. Since the last time we spoke, Tom, the last pennies to ever be minted in America came out of the press. It's over, right?
It is. Just as a matter of technical correction, the U.S. Mint never made pennies. They made cents. The penny is a British denomination.
Oh.
So
right.
The penny is 1/240th of a pound, but a cent is equal to 1/100th of a dollar.
See, I learned something here every day. So the scent, the last one being the Lincoln scent, has come and gone. What's interesting, though, the last 5 that were minted got this Omega mark on them, the last 5. And I've read some crazy stuff online that they could be worth $1 million or more. And I'm not sure if that's true. What's your take on it, Tom?
I think that's probably accurate. Being there's only 5 of them and being in such a historic event, I think it's going to be a storied coin for generations to come, and it's going to be very sought after. There is one that's going to go off in auction soon. I don't know the exact details, but I would not be surprised at all if it brings well over $1 million.
Yeah, you know, I saw some collectors going, and you would appreciate this, going wild on social media because the penny, one of the 5, was being held up by somebody's fingertips. They were touching the coin with their fingers, and they're like, oh, you can't do that. It'll wreck the value. True or false?
It is. That fingerprint impression will probably etch into the coin, and it will impair the color of the surfaces. So yeah, the grease from your finger will damage the surface of the coin.
So what happens? Where are the other 4? Do we know?
I don't know where the other 4 are right now. I assume that they're all together yet. But as I said, the one's going off for auction. I don't know if there's others that are going to be available for auction. I'm sure one will probably go to the Smithsonian. I'm not sure if there's any others that are going to be permanently impounded in museums or not.
Well, there you go. All right, 5 of those Omega pennies are out there. One's going on auction. We'll watch that. We'll talk about that sometime soon here on the program. If you want to find out more about Tom and what he does, you can go to libertycoinservice.com, libertycoinservice.com. If you want to be featured on this program with something that you have in your pocket, send that along to coins@stevegruber.com, coins@stevegruber.com, and Tom and I will evaluate them, and Tom will give us his best guess. Tom, thank you as always.
Thank you, Steve.
There you have it. Tom Colson from Liberty Coin Service. Always an interesting conversation about what we have found in our loose change. I'll take a break and be right back. This is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, time to check it out sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. 9 games in the NBA last night. Winners included Toronto, Indiana, Denver, and Oklahoma City. The Thunder's 113-99 victory over Sacramento moved their record to 15-1 on the year. The Thunder have won 7 straight games. In the NHL, there were 4 games. Winners were Washington, Minnesota, Calgary, and Anaheim. In college football, a pair of games, both in the Mid-American Conference. It was Miami of Ohio over Buffalo 37-20, and Central Michigan beat Kent State on the road 28-16. In men's college basketball, there were 2 marquee games. 4th-ranked Arizona won at 3rd-ranked Connecticut 71-67, and 11th-ranked Alabama got past 8th-ranked Illinois 90-86. Other winners included 6th-ranked Michigan and 22nd-ranked Auburn. And in top 25 women's college basketball, winners included number 2 South Carolina and number 4 Texas. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciated. Doug Collins. I mentioned this earlier, made a brilliant move earlier this week. He is pulling $77 million earmarked by the Biden administration for solar panel EV charging stations. Sounds like a left-wing utopia, doesn't it? Solar panel charging stations in Michigan. Wouldn't that just be brilliant? Anyhow, Doug Collins, the VA secretary, confiscated that $77 million and redirected it for projects to fight cancer and provide physical therapy for veterans. Fight cancer and give PT to veterans, rather than some leftist pipe dream about solar panels powering cars going down the road, none of which was ever going to happen. Do you know how much money we spent on EV charging stations that never came to pass? Billions of dollars. They just said in Washington, light your money on fire like drunk sailors. I think that's insulting the sailors, frankly. At any rate, Doug Collins doing the right thing for veterans. I applaud him for that. Help the veterans with cancer and physical therapy. No EV charging stations attached to Chinese-made solar panels. Deal? Deal. All right, coming up in the next hour, let's see. We've got Ivy will be here, of course. And then Jay Young, King Operating Corporation, oil and gas company in Dallas. We'll talk about energy, and we'll talk about President Trump and the Democrat filibuster abuse that must be addressed now.
Actually, I don't think Ivy will be here.
Oh, that's right. She won't, because I've got Matt Hall.
I'm
There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Is here from the shadow of Detroit, live for another big hour of the program, fighting for you every single day from the foxhole of freedom. Delivering broadcast excellence every single day. That's what we do here. Thank you for stopping in here. 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, from the west side, former Saladin Shriners treasurer. He's headed to prison for 4 years, maybe more, for embezzling $1.5 million. Number 2, bipartisan lawmakers prescribe relief from Michigan residents and their medical debt. Can they get that medical debt off their backs? Well, some Republicans and Democrats are going to try. We'll see how that plays out. And number 3, interesting story here. The comeback of the Palisades nuclear power plant. That story could be in jeopardy today because several Green New Deal activist left-wing organizations are suing to stop it in federal court. Unbelievable, actually. Unbelievable. The Palisades nuclear plant had been mothballed, and then Governor Whitmer realized that was a terrible idea, and I give her great credit. She said, we need to restart that nuclear plant. She's right, we do. We need more nuclear, more natural gas. We need more energy to power the future. We're not doing it with windmills and solar panels. Sorry, that was a charade. Beyond Nuclear, Don't Waste Michigan, and Michigan Safe Energy Future sued the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission on November the 17th, arguing the agency broke federal law by granting Holtec International the exemptions it needs to resume power production at Palisades. The story can be found, by the way, it's in entirety, MichiganNewsSource.com. It's the best news source you can find in Michigan for breaking news, coverage of important stories, and it's my news company. I stand behind it. I give you my word. It'll be good news, solid news, honest news. Now, these organizations say Palisades legally crossed the point of no return in 2022 when its former owner certified the plant for decommissioning, a step they claim permanently bars it from refueling. Why would they want to do that? These are not Michigan organizations. These are organizations that are powered by foreign money. Why would they want to do that? When those certifications were provided, they legally prohibited any further operation of the Palisades reactor, the group said in their complaint filed in U.S. District Court for the Western District of Michigan. Holtec bought Palisades in 2022, wants to reverse course and fire up the reactor again. It's a move supported strongly by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Again, I say and tell you, she did the right thing here. It's supported not only by the governor, but by West Michigan lawmakers, the U.S. Department of Energy, which awarded the company $57 million to move the project forward. Keep the lights on, folks. The environmental groups argue the NRC handed Holtec special treatment, accusing regulators of letting the company operate in a gray zone that allows serious negative safety consequences, including the risk of a meltdown on the Lake Michigan shoreline. The second nuclear power plant in America was Big Rock, up on the shores of Lake Michigan in Charlevoix. It's doing just fine, by the way. The NRC stressed that inspectors are reviewing every system needed for startup. The plant can only start up when this work is completed, and the NRC determines that plant systems meet federal requirements. So said Victoria Mittling. She's the spokesman for the National Regulatory Commission. If successful, Palisades will become the first U.S. nuclear power plant ever restarted after entering a decommissioning status. Holtec maintains it's moving in the right direction, but the lawsuit asks the court to halt the NRC approvals until the legality of the restart is settled. They hate us. This is why I believe, and I strongly believe this, modular nuclear is the future. Nuclear generation power plants the size of a Suburban or any other big SUV that can power whole cities, because we can do it on a smaller scale now and produce more energy, more efficiently, not the big cooling towers and all that. No. And pretty soon we'll have Mr. Fusion on the back of our cars stuffing banana peels into it. I don't know if that's true, but it'd be cool if we could. Yes, it's Back to the Future. anyhow, we'll keep an eye on that story. It's important. MichiganNewsSource.com. For this story as well, a group of bipartisan lawmakers in Lansing want to ease medical debt for you if you live in Michigan and you're overwhelmed with it. State Representatives Angela Regas, a Republican from Caledonia, and Lori Pahutsky, a Democrat from Livonia, joining forces with State Senators Sarah Anthony, Democrat Lansing, and Jonathan Lindsay, Republican Coldwater. They introduced a package of bills that aims to shield families from aggressive medical debt collectors. In addition, the lawmakers said the bills ensure fair treatment under the Michigan Consumer Protection Act. Medical debt affects millions of Michiganders, often leading to bankruptcy, denied care, or ruined credit, said Regas. By curbing predatory practices, we can ease burdens on working families without undue strain on providers. And she continued with this. People who are paying their debt should not be living in fear of foreclosure or bankruptcy. Medical debt is the number one reason for bankruptcy in America. Number one. Time to protect these people. Senator Lindsay echoed Regas, saying it is important that Lansing addresses the out-of-control cost of health care. We must also confront the stark reality that many Michiganders are failed by the current system and saddled with extraordinary medical debt. This is why the Affordable Care Act has got to go. If not for John McCain, I appreciate his service to the country, but his service as a politician was fraught with problems. He was awful. Awful. If he had voted to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, we would now be in a free market system with people having better options, lower premiums, and better coverage. But he turned it down because he didn't like Donald Trump. Brilliant move. Don't speak ill of the dead, they say, but I don't care. He was wrong. Wrong. Caps on fees and aggressive collection actions are also targeted the bills. Pahutsky explained that the legislation would restrict and properly regulate the state of medical debt and require that any overpayments are refunded within 60 days. That would be the law going forward. In testimony before a Michigan Senate committee earlier this month, Senator Anthony said, for many, medical debt is not just a one-time expense. It can often lead to the beginning of a cycle of poverty. And if you're already in poverty, it becomes something you cannot overcome. That is the real problem. Now, if you'd like to save some money right now, if you've got a well in your yard, you're already halfway to a geothermal system that could save you a pile of money. Just add a well connect. It's a hybrid geothermal system. You can do it in as little as 8 hours and start saving big. You'll cut your heating costs by half. You'll extend the life of your furnace and air conditioner and also cool your home more efficiently, all without major renovations. It's an add-on. It's not a replacement for your furnace and air conditioner. It's an add-on. It's the fastest, most affordable way to bring geothermal home. And right now, there are subsidies coming from the federal government that will run out at the end of next month. Get on the board. Get on the ball. Save yourself a pile of money. WellConnectGeo.com. If you heat with propane or heating oil or even wood, you can save a tremendous amount of money. Go look at it right now. It's a brilliant system. It's patented. It's made in Michigan. WellConnectGeo.com. Built for your well. WellConnect Geo. Yeah, you want to save a pile of money? This is the answer. WellConnectGeo.com. You want geothermal? This is the way you do it. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, back to it. Glad to have you here as we continue the conversation. The forecasts are eye-popping. They are. Utilities say they'll need 2 or 3 times more electricity within a few years to power the massive new data centers. They're feeding a fast-growing AI economy. And some of those data centers are being discussed here in Michigan, which is why the Palisades nuclear plant is so important. And it's remarkable to me that these left-wing groups are trying to prevent Palisades from coming back online. Of course, that's going to be a fight decided probably in the federal courts. I expect that the Palisades will get back online, but they're going to throw a couple of roadblocks in the way. Jay Young is a fourth-generation oil and gas professional, founder and CEO of King Operating Corporation, an oil and gas-based company in the D, Dallas, Texas. He joins me now. Good to see you.
Hey, good to have you, Steve.
All right, let's talk about this. We need a lot more power. Natural gas, really one of those keys to a big future, isn't it?
It really is, yeah, and it powers a lot of electricity. We're going to have a lot of data centers with not only our demand going up for natural gas, but we're going to see data centers, and we're also going to see that LNG. So we're exporting a lot more natural gas. So it's just a like a perfect storm, if you will, for need of natural gas here. And the more we need, or I guess they take my glasses off, man. That's a see those things here, Steve. But anyway, but yeah, as we get going here with the natural gas, and we're the electric grid in 2021 was knocked off because of all the power that was needed. The need's going to go up, and we're going to need more natural gas. The geothermal that you mentioned before your break, brilliant. Exactly.
Oh, it is a brilliant system. Well Connect Geo is a brilliant system. It uses the well in your yard. It's a hybrid patented system designed by an engineer right here in Michigan. It is brilliant. Go on.
Yeah. Man, my house right here is powered by geothermal, and our electrical costs are down considerably because of that. But anyway, yes, we're going to need more natural gas coming out of the ground because of that. We're going to need it because we have the demand is going to go up. And as your demand for oil, demand for natural gas goes up, we're going to continue to need to drill. I know there's a lot of people out there that may not want to drill for oil and gas, but hey, it's a need. Yeah, it's a need. We're going to have it.
Here's the thing. Here's a stat for folks. A single AI data center can require the same amount of electricity as a city of 80 to 100,000 homes. I mean, hello, we need power to power the future, right?
Exactly.
And it's coming no
huge. It's coming with Jeff Bezos last night. He's now CEO or co-CEO of another AI data center. I mean, there's just so many different things that are going on in the AI. It's coming, and we're going to need it. And if we don't do something about it soon, or if a lot of people don't do something about it soon, we're going to see a lot of knockoffs on electricity and people. That is not good. When you have shutoffs when it's cold outside and you need heat, that's going to be a problem, obviously.
Absolutely true. Propane, Michigan uses more propane than any other state for whatever reason. So propane's important in Michigan, natural gas. And the great thing about natural gas is America has it in spades. We just need to capitalize on it. In Michigan, unique because of our limestone structure, we can store lots of natural gas in Michigan for other folks. That's us doing our part over here.
Exactly. We appreciate that. There's a lot of natural gas up there, and there's a need to drill. So there's going to be a need for companies like ours, the independents, to come in and drill. There's going to be investors that are going to be needed to go into our funds so we can do the same thing. And there's just a huge need for it. And I don't want people to think that oil and gas is going away anytime soon, because it's not. It's yeah, and I believe that too.
Never. So let me ask you this. It's a totally new day in Washington, obviously. Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, he's doing everything he can to open up opportunities, whether it's in Wyoming or Texas or any of the other big energy-producing states. He's there on the front line saying, let's get this done. Alaska obviously comes to mind. North Dakota has a tremendous amount of resources, and you can look all over this country and find resources. We just have to stop being afraid to use them, right?
Right, exactly. And I'm not saying we're going to go back into, but at one time in this country 100 years ago, L.A., the shores of L.A. and Manhattan Beach and that whole area down there was producing enough oil to power like 20% of the United States. So there is a lot, and Colorado's the same. I mean, it's like there is just so many resources that we don't tap into, like Pennsylvania, New York. New York has an incredible Marcellus shell, maybe even a Utica shell up there that they could tap into that they just are they don't want to because of regulations and because they're afraid that people are going to get hurt. That is not the case. Oil and gas drilling is very safe. There's a lot of drilling going on in Texas all day, every day, and it's good for the economy. And as long as people are going to continue to drive, just like Billy Bob says in Landman, what a great show. I mean, he's talking about the demand, and their demand is going to be there. It's going to continue to go, and we're not going to go. And people driving to work every day and saying, man, I wish we could cut off all this electricity and oil and gas, and I wish these people would go home or whatever the case may be.
You mentioned Colorado. Colorado has, I think it's called the Green Mountain Formation, if I'm thinking about this correctly, a massive deposit of energy that hasn't even been tapped yet. A massive amount. It would cover us for the next 200 years just by itself if we utilize our resources. I'll give you the last word here, Jay.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just to say that this, I mean, it's a great country. We have a lot of resources. We need to go back into these resources and be able to use them, be able to drill for them. And it takes mountains pretty much in Colorado, California, where they're paying $5-6. I pulled up the other day for cheap gas.
Yeah, it's silly.
So on my rental car, and it was $5.
Yeah.
And
$2.46 is what I paid last week. I paid $2.40. I got to leave it there. But look, oil, West Texas Intermediate at this moment, $60 exactly. Brent crude, the benchmark, $64.19. We are at a good place, and we got to capitalize on energy. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
We'll talk again soon, sir. I'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Follow me at stevegruber.com. Great articles every day. Articles by me, Liberty Page, and on Saturdays, Satire Saturday from Liberty Page. You never want to miss that. stevegruber.com. All right. Looking at all this energy we need, it's pretty important stuff. That's why this Palisade story is so important and important for us going forward in the future. We have got to use common sense. We have more natural resources in America than any piece of real estate in the world. And you can fact check me on this. What do we have? We have farmland, fresh water, tremendous amounts. We have oil, natural gas, timber. We've got minerals, gold, lead, nickel, copper, you name it, we've got it. We've got to stop letting the far left fringe stop us from doing what needs to be done. We are the cleanest, greenest, industrialized nation on earth, bar none. You look at what they do in China or India or Brazil compared to what we do here when it comes to mining and reclamation. We have the best practices. Is it always perfect? No, there are mistakes made, sure. But there's never been a significant nuclear accident in America ever. Modular nuclear would be the way to go. It has to be. It absolutely has to be. There's just no question about it. It has to be the path forward. Here's something I mentioned earlier. I'm going to share with you now. Apparently, John Fetterman, he has gotten the radical far left peasants upset. They've got their pitchforks out there sharpening them. If they could, they'd set up a gallows for this guy in the city square and say, hey, come down, Senator. They're going to primary John Fetterman in Pennsylvania in 2028. That's what they say. Groups that formally supported him said he is a Trump-enabling corporate Democrat. The decision to primary Fetterman comes in the wake of his support for the GOP-led funding bill to end the government shutdown. Right, because the government shutdown was such a wonderful success for the Democrats. 43 days of oblivion. It did nothing. It accomplished nothing. It proved nothing, except that they're willing to sacrifice you on the altar of progressivism. Other than that, I don't think we learned much. Yeah, so John Fetterman, front and center for the Progressive Firing Squad. That's right. John Fetterman. He's never going to be a Republican, so don't worry about that part. He is a Democrat, an old school Democrat, who, after all, didn't turn out to be insane. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the filibuster and how Republicans move forward. All right, let's just get right back into it, shall we? The filibuster. I am on record here saying it's time for the filibuster to go because, look, Democrats would have ended it before. It's not really a real thing. You know, I looked through this document on my desk. It's called the United States Constitution, well worn because I refer to it all the time. Came to from my friends at Hillsdale College, by the way. The filibuster is not in here. It's not a constitutional thing, so what's the problem? Dave Bossie is the president of Citizens United and RNC National Committeeman from Maryland. Dave, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I really appreciate being here.
So I've been looking through this document, and I keep reading, and Dave, I don't find the filibuster here in the United States Constitution. Did I miss it somewhere?
No, Steve, you didn't. Let me just give everybody a big picture, global picture here. It was only about a little over 100 years ago when the United States Senate created the filibuster on their own. It's not in the Constitution. And 100 years ago, they said it takes 67 votes to stop a filibuster, which is quite ridiculous. 67, you'd never get anything done. About 50 years ago, they changed it to 60 votes. Okay, so they have a history of changing their own Senate rules. And so my position is today the same as yours, that we should be rid of the filibuster because the Democrats are going to do it the moment they take control the next time. We have to hope there's never a next time, but the pendulum swings. If they get control, we all know it. Steve, you know it. I know it. Everyone listening understands the radical left has departed from the norm, and they will absolutely kill the
100%. If not for Sinema and Manchin, it'd have been gone now. How many votes would it take?
Without question.
How many votes does it take to end the filibuster? 50 plus one? If the vice president...
It takes 51 votes. The vice president doesn't break a tie-breaking vote on a rule. So it takes 51. And here's the thing. I don't believe, because of Collins and Murkowski and McConnell, and to be quite honest, Tillis and Langford and Rand Paul, guys like that, we're going to get to 51. There's a lot of Republicans who are just adamantly opposed to ridding the Senate of the filibuster. And so my position, and I've really been talking, I talked to the president about this. I wrote an opinion piece about this, and he promoted it. Many senators have called me to talk about this. We need to use the rules. If we can't get rid of the filibuster, let's use the Senate rules, those same rules that they're standing on. Let's use those same rules to get the president what he wants through the filibuster and defeat the filibuster through exhaustion. Let's have Senate Majority Leader John Thune stand on the Senate floor and make the Democrats use a Rule 19, okay, which says that every senator gets to speak twice on any given issue, and then they're done. It's basically the exhaustion strategy. Let's just push through. It may take us several days. It may take us a week, but we get it done. It doesn't. What the senators who, like Collins and Murkowski and McConnell, they want to preserve the minority rights. What this does is protect the minority rights, but still get President Trump the agenda he wants. It's
so
just
the same minority party that closed the government for 43 days, here's what they'll do. They will pack the Supreme Court up to 13, 15, 17, whatever they decide. They will do that. They will move to make Puerto Rico a state and the District of Columbia a whopping 67 square miles a state. It was never supposed to be that way. That is in the Constitution, by the way. That way they can get themselves 4 new senators. They will get rid of voter ID. They will turn into mass mail-in ballots. They will rig this thing forever, for eternity, if they get the opportunity. My belief. Now, maybe Fetterman is the only guy that I can think of that might not vote for ending the filibuster on the Democrat side. He's the only one, strangely enough, but he's the only one that seems to have much common sense about much of anything anymore on the Democrat side. Right or wrong?
Completely right. John Fetterman is the only common sense senator. And by the way, I think you and I a couple of years ago thought the exact opposite of John Fetterman. I was openly
wrong.
Admitted, right? I was wrong as well. He has turned into a common sense American senator who believes in, look, the ideals of the small D Democrat Party. And is a liberal, but he is a liberal who believes in making sure America is safe and secure. And so we've seen that now. But I don't believe he'll vote to end the filibuster. But that's only one vote. Look, the Democrats have shut down the government for a record number of days here. They're going to do it again in January. And that is why John Thune, in my opinion, the Senate Majority Leader, needs to really buck up here. Really, really
well,
be
let me ask you this, Dave.
in his leadership. Yes.
Do you think if they shut it down again in January, first of all, very unpopular. If they do it again, I think they really hurt their chances in the midterms. And right now, if the midterms were held, the Democrats are going to walk away with it. The reason being affordability. Even a number of the people in Donald Trump's base are disenchanted with the cost of everything. So right now, it's going to be all about affordability. Of course, you've got several cases about redistricting that I think are all going to go the Republicans' way, every single one of them. So Democrats, careful what you wish for. But if they shut it down again, I think it hurts them in the midterms. And right now, they could certainly retake the Senate based on some close races and what's going on in Maine, North Carolina, and elsewhere. So we'll see. I think that would just be a fool's errand, don't you?
Look, President Trump deserves to get the legislative agenda that his mandate last year, his electoral mandate got him, and he deserves it. His leadership has been spectacular over the last 10, 11 months now. We need the Senate to stand up and stand side by side with President Trump and deliver for the American people. If we don't deliver, to your point, we're going to lose races come November.
That's right.
We're going to potentially lose the House and Senate.
David, I know you pay a lot of attention to this. You and I have talked a number of times. It's been a while. We talked a lot. What about another reconciliation bill? Big, beautiful bill number 2. A lot can get done that way in the short term, filibuster or not, right?
Well, there is an opportunity for a reconciliation bill, but let me just say, this is a moment in time, Steve. This is a very important moment.
Agreed.
John Thune can use the levers of power, Rule 19, the ability to exhaust the Senate Democrats and push through President Trump's agenda if he has the will. And if he has, and he can use the threat of another Schumer irresponsible, reckless shutdown to educate the American people why he's doing it. I believe we win legislatively and we win from a public relations standpoint. It's good public policy and it's good public relations. And that
Agreed.
We don't usually get those two together. And I got to tell you, President Trump deserves strong leadership in the Senate.
He does. David Bossie, always appreciate seeing you. Come back again soon. We'll talk more about this. I think the filibuster has to go. I think we don't have an alternative. And for Republicans to say and sit there and say otherwise, I think is reckless and irresponsible, because the Democrats will ram every radical idea down our throats first chance they get. David, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. All right, we'll take a break. When I come back, Speaker of the Michigan House, Matt Hall, is going to join me on budget transparency and so much more, and his leadership in the House, which has been the best I've seen in years. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now as we dive back into it with the Speaker of the Michigan House, Matt Hall, who has done, I think, tremendous work since he's been there. Matt, welcome back to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve.
I do respect the work you've gotten done, but there's more work to be done every day. Thankfully, we didn't shut the government down in Michigan. That's good news. You signed the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan, celebrating, I should say. What is the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan? Why is it important? Why are you pushing it forward?
Well, when I got to the legislature, the COVID-19 pandemic started shortly after, and we have so much money in state government. I mean, tens of billions, more money than they've ever had before. And what happened is this big rush led by Governor Whitmer and the Democrats to just spend it out the door. I mean, billions and billions of dollars. They spent our entire state surplus on this. It was $9 billion. And there was, we'd get these votes and we wouldn't know what we were voting on. They would just shove these pork spending projects in there in the middle of the night right before the vote. And then we started, after the bill passed, we started looking and learning what these things were. And they would go to for-profit companies. There would be organizations that did not exist even that got the money, and they'd create the organization after they got the money. And there'd be a lot of wasteful purposes like splash pads and a hip hop academy and Zen Center and all kinds of stuff, baseball stadiums.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You just said organizations that did not exist. Money goes out, then they create the organization. How is that not criminal? How is that not illegal?
Yeah, exactly. So, it would just go out the door, and there are some criminal investigations going on, on some of these pork spending projects. So, when I came in, I just said we're not doing any more pork spending unless we disclose it, and that's what the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan is, because there is some, like with a weaponized government led by Democrats, I can understand that they might punish a Republican district. They may say, we're not fixing your road because you have a Republican elected official. We're not going to, help your local hospital for this reason. So I see a benefit to a legislator being able to go around the Whitmer administration and force something important for their district. But we've gotten way far away from that. Instead, I listed off how out of control this has been. So what we said is, look, you must disclose the public purpose. You must be proud enough to put your name on this, and you have to disclose it 45 days before any vote, so that everyone has an opportunity to look into this and understand what it is. And we held up all pork spending in the budget and forced the Democrats to agree to make this permanent law. And they wanted the pork so bad, after weeks and weeks and weeks of delay, they agreed at the last minute, and the governor signed that this week.
So that's good news, right?
Yeah, it's great news. I mean, we're finally going to be able to have transparency on this pork spending. Now, in this budget we just passed, by the way, we cut the pork spending 87%. So we're reining it in. And now they're going to be forced to disclose what all of it is. So, and we're banning for-profit corporations from getting it. And we're also, we're not paying them up front anymore. What Whitmer would do, here's your $20 million, and they'd start wasting it. And we'd find out, and there was nothing we could do to stop it once they got the money. Now they have to submit the expenditure and get approval from the government before they go out and make these expenditures. So,
in fairness, man, I sit here as a taxpayer and I think to myself, if you've got an idea, if it's a splash pad or a hip hop show, whatever it is, if you're proud of it and you think it's a good idea and a good investment in the community, a good use of taxpayer dollars, why would you hide it in the first place? If it's a good idea, just, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Put it out there. Why would you hide it in the first place?
Right. And what you were seeing are things like hundreds of millions of dollar projects for Stephen Ross, who's a large mega donor, you would see these kind of items come through and then no one admit that they put it in the budget. You know what I mean? And these be
Yeah, it
hundreds
applies
of
to both
dollars.
sides. Look, it applies to both sides. Hey, don't sneak stuff through. If you think it's a good idea, you want to spend money. I mean, look, show us your cards. That's not so much to ask for the taxpayers. We're out here working our tails off. We're spending 4.25% on income tax in Michigan. Tell us how you're using the money. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and what they would do is they'd use, because they'd slip these things in with public safety spending, healthcare spending, education spending, and they tack these things on. And so if you voted no, you'd be voting to defund police and schools and your roads. And so that's how they get you. And so now forcing them to disclose it. The craziest thing is when you're in the end and you're negotiating this, because I sat in a room with the Democrats to negotiate this, I'd ask them, I'd say, okay, I will put your project in the budget if you can give me a sentence explanation of what it is. And they'd say, Winnie Brinks would say, I'll have to get back to you.
Yeah.
That's not how we should budget.
No, it's not how you should. You have to sign the bill to see what's in the bill. I mean, that's all I hear. I hear Nancy Pelosi's words in my head. You have to sign it to see what's in it. That's not the way to run a railroad. Matt Hall, again, I appreciate the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan. I like it, and I'm glad it got done. Sir, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
There you have it, Speaker Matt Hall. And that's why I like him. This is just common sense, folks. It's the working man and working woman's money. Tell us how you're spending it. It's not that big a deal. If you're doing it on something smart, great. If you're just trying to build a hip-hop joint or a splash pad, maybe that should be a local issue. Maybe that should be a local issue. Just putting it out there. I'll take a break with some final thoughts. I'll have those after the break. How did chickens ever become so darn expensive anyway? I mean, you know, these chickens, some of them you see people, we got into it before COVID, and then when COVID came, we became full-blown chicken ranchers around here, which is fine. I love to have moving lawn ornaments. We don't let them run all around the yard all the time because sometimes tragedy strikes in the form of a coyote or a stray dog or whatever, sometimes hawks. But there's some work involved. We're devising a new chicken operation here. So we're going through the plans to make sure that the 30 birds that we have a lovely life, because nothing's more important to me and Anthony than the lovely life of chickens. Right, Anthony?
I did not sign up for this. Steve didn't regulate his daughter's chicken buying.
Hold on. He didn't sign up for it. Is that what you're going with? You didn't sign up for it.
And now
he doesn't seem to mind every morning when he's chowing down the eggs that are cooked up here. He doesn't seem to mind shoveling them in as he's sitting there with a little bit of butter coming down the corner of his mouth. That doesn't seem to bother him in the least.
Those chickens ain't even putting out anymore.
Well, it's this time of the year. They slow down.
Yeah, so get rid of them.
Wait, you want the chickens to put out? That's so weird. Anyhow, so Anthony never complains about the chickens when he's gobbling down the eggs. Get it? Gobbling? Yeah, Anthony. So I guess you did sign up for it. By extension, you're part of the chicken mafia.
And you guys are gonna have to pay up about 6 chickens when I build my coop.
I'll do that. Trust me.
Gobble is a suitable word this time of year.
See?
Nice job.
We're talking chickens, not turkey.
Well, so what?
Still.
Regulate the chickens.
I think can you legally have where you live? Can you legally? What's the ordinance on chickens?
In Lansing, we can have 6 hens, no roosters, and they have to be enclosed.
Right. You see, you just need one of those little ones that you can move around the yard and fertilize your yard. You know, that's easy. It's got wheels on it. All right, cool. We're going to leave it there, chicken ranchers. Chicken ranchers unite. Right. Fight the good. See, we talk about some different things here. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, together we can save this nation. Work harder. Be better.